Good morning, this is Miss Billerbeck, and we're going to talk about square roots and cube roots. So this is pronounced the square root of 4. Really, there's a 2 there, but when we have the square root, it's assumed that there's a 2 here if there's no number there at all. So we can assume that there's a 2. So what that means is, well, I used to teach at a rough school, so this is how I used to teach it. So if we pretend that this is a bad neighborhood and this is a house, then we have 4 is 2 times 2. So you can't leave home unless you leave in pairs because it's just not safe to leave home unless you leave in pairs. So there happens to be a pair of 2s, so they can leave home as a united front of 2. So now they're safely leaving as 2. Now, if we have a 3 here, this is pronounced as the cube root of 8. Well, the neighborhood got a little more rough. Okay, so we have a safe house here, a cube root safe house, and you can only leave the cube root safe house if you leave in a united front of 3 of a kind. So we have 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. So there are 3 2s in here. So they get to leave as a united front of 8. Just like these 2 got to leave as a united front of 2. So if we have a quad root of 16, then we can break 16 into 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Now this is getting to be a bit of a war zone outside the safe house. So you can't leave home unless you leave in a squad of 4. A squad of a quad. So they get to leave the safe house as a united front of 2. So that's how we do roots. Square roots are the most common, cube roots are the next most common, but we can keep going as well. All right, so here's our example. So we have 484. So first we want to prime factorize 484. So we see that it's even, so we're going to take a 2 out. And we get 242. It's still even, so we're going to take another 2 out. And we get 121. It's no longer even. Now we do the test, is it divisible by 3? So we have 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. So no, 4 is not divisible by 3, and that is not. It's not divisible by 5 because it doesn't end in a 0 or 5. And it's, let's see, is it divisible by 7? So if we divide by 7, we get 51 left over. Does 7 go into 51? No. So then we can try 11. Does 11 go into 121? That's our next prime number. Yes, and that's 11 times 11. So if we were to break this square root house, and there's really a little 2 there, means you can't leave home unless you leave in pairs. So then you have 2 times 2 times 11 times 11. So this group of 2s gets to leave as a united front of 2. So we have 1, 2. And then the group of 11s also get to leave the safe house. So 2 times 2 and 2 times 2 is 22. So the square root of 484 really was the square root of 22 times 22, which equals 22. All right, let's look at another example. So we have the area of a square is 7,225 inches squared. Find the length of the side of the square by prime factorization. So if we have the square is 7,225 inches squared, or 7,225, this side is x and that side's x, and so the area equals x squared. So what we need to do is to find x, we need to find the square root of a. Now, normally when I would do that, I would put a plus or minus sign right here because the square of two negatives is a positive. But because area can only be positive, we are going to just do the square root of a. So now we put in our number, 7,225. Well, we need to prime factorize and see, well, what is 7,225 broken down? So we know that it's broken, we can take a 25 out because it's ending in a 25. And we want to do this fairly quickly because this is a big number. So let's take a 25 out. So there are two 25s in 72. So that leaves us 222. So that means there are 8 5s and 200, leaving 22. And then we have 225. So we know that we have 9 in 225. Okay, so let's double check that. 7,225 divided by 25. 7,225 divided by 25 is, my calculator is being a bear. 7,225 divided by 289. Still not doing it right. Okay, so let's do this the other way. All right, so technology fails. So that's why we have to do old-fashioned ways of doing things sometimes. So what I just did here is I did 2 times 50, subtracted 22, and then I dropped another 2 down. Then I saw, oh, I need 8 of those because there's 8 quarters and $2. So I have 40, 200, and I subtract, and I get 22, and I drop the 5 down. Well, that's just one more quarter than this one, so that has to be that. So we have 45, carry 4, that's 1822, and we subtract, and we have it. Okay, this one happens to be, I just happen to know that one. So that one happens to be 17 times 17. So let's try that. 17 times 17. So we have 49 and 111. And then we skip a spot, we have 7, 1. So when we add this together, we have 289. All right, so we also know that this one breaks as 5 and 5. All right, so we've broken this up in prime factorization. So we're really close to the answer now. So x equals the square root of 5 times 5 times 17 times 17. So now we see we can let these 5s leave the square root house. So x is going to be 5. And we're going to have 17 leave the square root house as a united front of 17. Now we just have to know what is 5 times 17. Well, 5 times 7 is 35. Carry a 3. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 3 is 8. So that's 85. So each of these sides is is 85. Now, if we double check that, and we should always double check, we can multiply 85 times 85, and we should get the right answer. Okay, so we have 668. And we add these together, we have 5, 2, 12, and voila, it's what we wanted. So each side is 85 inches. Oops, we'll do that next. All these boards. All right, so now we want to find the cube root of 1,000 by prime factorization. So let's take 1,000. Okay. Well, we know that it's even, so we can take a 2 out, and that gives us 500. That's still even, so we can take another 2 out, and that gives us 250. It's still even, so we take another 2 out, and that gives us 125. It's no longer even. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 5 is 8, not divisible by 3, but it is divisible by 5. So we take a 5 out, and we get 225, and then we know that 25 is divisible by 5. So this ends up 2 times 2 times 2 times 5 times 5 times 5. So the cube root of 1,000 ends up the cube root of 2 times 2 times 2 times 5 times 5 times 5. So it's a very bad neighborhood. You can't leave home unless you leave in groups of 3. So these 2's get to leave safely as a united front of 2. These 5's also get to leave safely as a united front of 5. So we have 2 times 5 equals 10. So what that means is 10 times 10, which is 100, times 10, which is 1,000, is, so 10 is the cube root of 1,000. So we have the cube root of 1,000 is 10. All right, let's do the last one. So we have the volume of a cube now is 2,744 centimeters. Oh, it's the volume of the cube. You can't have a square here. It has to be a cube because it's volume. Okay, find the length of a side of the cube by prime factorization. So what we have is the volume of the cube is x times x times x, otherwise known as length times width times height. But since it's a cube, all of them are the same, and they're x. So what we're looking for is x is the cube root of 2,744. So we see, oh, it's even, so we'll take a 2 out. So that gives us 1, 3, 7, 2. It's still even. Take another 2 out. And we have 6. That's going to be 8, 6. Ooh, still even. Take another 2 out. And we have 3, 4, 3, no longer even. Okay, so we have 343. 343. It is not divisible by 3 because 3 plus 4 plus 3 is 10. It's not divisible by 5 because it doesn't end in a 0 or 5, but it is divisible by 7 because I just know that. So, so there are 4 7s into that. So 4 7s leave 9. So we are 6 because 4 times 7 is 28, and then 34 minus 28 is 6, is 63, and there are 9 7s in 63. Then we know this is 7 and 7. So there we have it. So we have x equals the cube root of 2 times 2 times 2 times 7 times 7 times 7. So these 2's get to leave as a united front of 2. And these 7's get to leave as a united front of 7. And so 2 times 7 is 14, and the units were centimeters. We must never, ever forget units, because an inch is very different than a mile, and a kilometer is very different than a millimeter. Okay, so x equals 14 centimeters. So that means that's 14 centimeters, that's 14 centimeters, and that's 14 centimeters. So there we have it. The cube root of 2744 is 14 centimeters. Have a wonderful day. Bye.